Well, it's been a while since I made my last video. My apologies. I did try to make one in the airport in Knoxville, Tennessee. That fell through. I had promised to make, I had tried to make several videos and had told you that I was going to try in my last video. That fell through. A lot of things have gone wrong. As you can see, for those of you who know, I live in just north of Carbondale, Kansas. And those of you who know me, some of you did get a hold of me with the incident that happened over the weekend. That happened right over the hill right there between those two trees. So I spent most of this weekend trying to stay out of the investigators' way with everything that happened and chasing the media off of my property. I'm sure Fox News is not too happy with me. They tried to launch a drone from the cornfield you see behind me. It actually wraps kind of to the south of my property. And I chased them and some other drone operators off from that field. And I had several hundred people coming down my road trying to get around the incident, and there's no way around. I also had a couple of people that thought they could take the old road bypass and get back to the incident to be able to gawk. We ended up having to call the sheriff's department on that later that evening, even though they were swamped with dealing with what they had to deal with. For those who are not familiar, there was a shooting here that made national news. It did happen right over the hill back here behind my property. My neighbors, the McMillans, were the victims of it. A relative of theirs, a very close relative of theirs, had some issues. The Osage County Sheriff's Department responded to a phone call for assistance, and they had been on the scene for a little while when it happened. I was out here when it happened, but gunfire around here is a very, very common thing, so I didn't pay much attention to it until the helicopter came in, and then we started hearing all the sirens. And it's actually kind of funny because the mass of the sirens didn't occur until just before the helicopter came, and the sirens were still a distance. So the chopper almost arrived before the mass of backup did. So yeah, we ended up having gawkers come out here onto the property and everything else. And also over the weekend, as you can see, I'm on crutches now. I have stated before that I am a combat vet, and I have been injured repeatedly in the line of duty. I have permanent damage to my back, and my left leg tends to go out. And I was coming down the stairs, and my left leg went out from under me, and my right leg shot forward to try and catch me since I was falling forward, and it hit the concrete slab. I struck heel first. Thought I'd broken my heel. I got lucky. It turns out I didn't. And the not so lucky side, I did end up bruising the heel bone itself, and doing a soft tissue deep bruise as well. So I'm on crutches for the next couple of weeks. This conversation, and yes, I know it's getting dark and getting late. This is actually the second take because my memory is not doing so well right now with everything that's been going on. So I wanted to get into clothing with the change of the seasons, and I'd been hoping to get this done a couple of weeks ago. Today's temperature was 62 degrees, and as of right now it is already 50 degrees, and the temperature will drop into the high 20s tonight. So I guess this is a pretty good time to start getting into the pros and cons of your clothing. This is just going to be a rough video for right now, showing you the different fibers and their basic uses. You will notice that I am wearing an alpaca t-shirt. alpaca wool, but I do have cotton pants on. If I was in the outdoors, these would not be cotton. These would be nylon or a synthetic with a base layer of either alpaca or merino wool or something along that nature. But we'll get into that as we go here, and I discuss these items and readjust this camera so you can see what I'm doing. All right? So bear with me while I adjust this. So what we have before you is a selection of clothing. Summer socks, summer gloves, some shirts, long sleeve. Shit. There's some nylon synthetics here, and we'll get into those. Of course, we've got coarse wool and coarse wool. This is military surplus wool pants, heavy duty. These would be a winter type pant. In this case, these are, I think, British military. Let me see here. Yeah, these are British military wool pants. I had these, pretty close to 25 years now. Maybe even 27 years. I've had these almost as long as I've been married. So I got these a year after we were married. So 27 years, because 28 will be January 22nd. So these have been great during the winter, during winter hiking trips, winter camping trips, winter hunting trips for me. They've even gone paddling with me on a couple of winter kayak paddles. Have done a fantastic job for years. And although I've had them 27 years, I probably stopped wearing them about 6-7 years ago and went to these. And this is a brand new, when I found out that they were going to stop making these, I went and bought a whole pile of them. Think about 10 pair. These are alpaca wool outdoor pants. 100% heavy duty alpaca wool. You can see how thick they are. They've got cargo pockets and everything else. They have been absolutely phenomenal. When we were at -36 last year, I was warm and toasty with minimal undergarments. But the downside to alpaca is alpaca is very expensive as far as surplus went. I paid $12 for these, for the alpaca pants. I paid $126, I believe. I have a selection of wool here. Here's some smart wool socks. You will find these at your camping sections of REI. You will find them at Academy Sports. You will find them at Bass Pro or Cabela's. These are a good day sock. They're a good jog sock, as long as you're getting back out and getting them off quickly and the temperatures are not too cold. These are actually great down to about 20 degrees. At 20 degrees, they really start to fail. And surprisingly enough, that is a point where a much cheaper sock, this one is from Walmart, $13 for this, $29.90 for the smart wools when I bought them a couple of years ago. These I got last year. I got these for my son. He still hasn't used them, so I borrowed them. I stole them from a sock drawer. This year I was just at Walmart. They're $13 at the store. That's after tax. They're like $12.89. I saw at the Topeka Walmart a couple of days ago when I looked, and then when I called him, he said he still had some that he hadn't even used yet. So I figured, great, I'll just steal them from him. And then we have alpaca, and I have used these alpaca socks. These are from Norlander. I have actually used these to negative 36 and have been kept warm with them. However, when it was negative 36, I did put a layer of nylons underneath. And these are nylon socks to keep me fairly warm. One of those was because I was going to be outdoors for a long time and I was going to be doing a lot of manual labor. I knew I was going to end up, my feet were going to end up probably sweating. And then I was going to end up, you know, trudging back at a slow walk through the snow. So I knew my feet were going to end up having that buildup of heat and then having to cool off. So as soon as the work stopped, I pulled these off, and these were fairly damp, but my main socks were still dry for the most part, just minorly damp. So as soon as I put my foot back in them and started to walk, they got kept warm with the alpaca. Now, the thing about nylon to remember is nylon, you'll see a lot of products that have nylon and nylon insulation. Nylon insulation is made by creating air pockets within the nylon. Nylon itself is horrible about retaining heat and maintaining temperatures. It is good about drying out quickly, but wool is fairly good about drying out, and alpaca is fantastic about drying out quickly. So I have been transitioning everything over the last 10 years to alpaca, from t-shirts to long sleeve shirts to the cap, the socks, the pants. I've even got a liner that I had made for my heavy winter coats, and we'll get into that. The nice thing about the natural wools and stuff is if you're in the outdoors, any kind of body wash that you can use on you and your hair, you can use on the natural fibers, where with synthetics and cottons, you'd have to use heavy-duty chemicals. The downside with cottons here, and like I said, I've got cotton pants, cotton socks. If I was fishing and splashed myself, was crossing a creek, fell in, or anything like that, these don't keep you warm very well, and when they get wet, they pull all the heat out of you. Cotton is death cloth. Cotton will kill you in the outdoors, especially during the change in seasons and during the extreme cold. Anybody who's ever hiked with cotton knows that your feet start to feel muggy. And while if you take your boots off and you sit there and air your feet out, they will dry relatively quickly. As long as they're in your boot, they won't. And the more the cold seeps in, or the longer you keep them in your boot, if they're in the cold, the more you're inviting frostbite or frost nip. If you keep your feet just above that temperature to where you're not getting frost nip, you end up with trench foot. You can end up with trench foot with the merino wool if you don't ever take them off, change them, and you keep them swampy and your boots don't get time to dry out. That's a care issue that you'll just have to deal with if you're in the outdoors. But this cotton is a sure way to get there right fast and in a hurry before you even realize you've gotten there. Cotton is absolutely horrible as a outdoors material. If you're, just on a quick trail hike and you're not going very far and you're right back to the to a warm, stable environment, cotton is fine. But if you're actually planning to spend the night anywhere or do any serious hiking or trail work, you're going to want to stay away from the cotton with a 10-foot pole, bar none. As far as the rag wool, like these issued pants and these gloves here, they are exceedingly warm. The bad things about rag wool is rag wool does not do against your skin very well. It is very coarse, it is itchy even if you're not allergic to it, and there are people that are very allergic to wool. Downsides to it. These are among the downsides to it. So you want to keep that in mind when you're buying wool. But the nice thing about rag wool is fairly decently priced. Yes, it is much more expensive than the cotton in the off-the-shelf cheap nylon stuff, but it will keep you much, much warmer, much happier in the outdoors, especially if you're taking a child to the outdoors. If you've ever heard them, while they're going, most of them will trudge along, trudge along, trudge along, and you won't know anything is wrong until it is really, really bad. And then you're already in trouble at that point when they start complaining, for the most part. There are the rare few kids that complain no matter what and just throw tantrums because it's not what they want. But most of the kids that I have been around, for the most part, especially if this is time with mom and dad that they love, or time with a family member, they will just eat it and go. And when they start whining, they're exhausted, they're already done in, and the damage is already done, and it has been grinding on them for a while. You will find that with cottons, that point comes a lot faster than it will with wools and alpaca. The only thing that I have found superior to, well, let's start this in a little bit easier. As far as outdoor wear, for the warmer temperatures, I go nylon. As we get cooler, I have transitioned completely to alpaca, but I am older, and I've invested a lot of money, and I spend a massive amount of time in the outdoors. So for me, that has been a practical buy. As you see, this pair of alpaca pants is still in. When I found Whoop Wear was going out of business, I bought 10 pairs. So I have 10 pairs, but the fact is that I started buying the Whoop Wear 6 years ago. They went out of business 4 years. Well, they stopped producing these 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, I bought the other 9 pairs. I am still wearing the original pair. They are still fantastic. They are not worn out. They don't have any holes. They have gotten a little fuzzier, but other than that, they're still perfectly good for use. This is just an overview, but for price, for price point and comfort in the outdoors, you're going to want to go ahead and stick with merino wool. And I want to go ahead and wrap this up, but nylons are good for pulling moisture off of you and maintaining a dry environment. They are not good about maintaining body heat. They are good for, synthetics are good for rough protection. There's something going on out there. But getting back to this, as far as price point goes, rag wool or general wool is going to be your cheapest, but it is the coarsest. It is itchy. People are allergic to it. Merino wool, for the most part anymore, whether made by them or, well, whether it be a Walmart special or the more durable smart wool. The downside to the Walmart wool is it will fall apart faster than the smart wool. However, it is warmer and it does protect you better in more inclement situations. While this is a tougher hiking sock, the smart wool is a tougher hiking sock. And as far as durability, no, I still have to give it to the alpaca. The alpaca wears better. The downside to the alpaca is that these alpaca only have 10% spandex. The rest is alpaca wool. So while they're very warm, they do stretch out. And after they stretch, once you wash them, they'll return to their original size and shape. But when you're hiking, if you're hiking with low-top shoes or sneakers, they will start to droop. With boots, they're perfect in. These are perfect all the way around for the most part. I've never had any problems with droop on them. The same with the smart wools. But in terms of warmth, there's only one thing that I found that will beat alpaca in both durability and warmth, and that is quivelet. Quivelet is extremely rare. It is hard to find. It is massively expensive. About the only places you can order anything quivelet is from Alaska, on Etsy, and for a pair of socks you are talking $200. Where with the alpaca wool you can get them for $30, just about the same price as the smart wool. Like I said, you can get the merino wool for Walmart for $13. Use nylon for extreme cold in conjunction with your wool. And I will get into the uses a little bit more at a later date as we get into the coats and the more changing of the seasons. But roughly for the general outdoors purposes, for the fall, the spring, or even hiking in the summer, switching between altitudes, wool is going to be your superior choice to anything cotton. Any of your selections, whether it be smart wool, rag wool, or alpaca, are far, far superior to anything cotton. In fact, they will save your life. Cotton will kill you. If you're looking into the outdoors as a hobby and you're just starting, I would tell you your best place to start out with is the Walmart special wools. You want to go with over 50% wool content. If you have already gotten into the hiking and backpacking portion of it and you're a fair weather backpacker, hiker, Smart Wool's a fantastic brand to go by. They are not sponsoring me. I have no sponsors. This is just the stuff that I have and the stuff that I've used and the stuff that I trust. So everything you see here is mine or borrowed from my kids that I've given them and that I recommend to them. Any questions before the next video, please, any questions at all, I would love to answer them, and it kind of directs my focus a little bit more specifically, because right now I understand that I'm just hitting the outsides of everything. Once we get into the actual camping, hunting, and fishing, and I take you with me, you'll start seeing the minutia of this. But right now I'm just trying to make sure that you will have the gear to be able to safely go out and do this correctly. Like I said, nylon is a great fair weather fabric. It is a good intermediate temperature base layer. Polypropylene is a great base layer for the mid temperatures from, you know, the 40s down to, I would say, just above zero. After that, polys lose their benefits. So as far as clothing, you know, the nylons and the synthetics get it from the amount of loft they have, where wools and natural fibers already have the air spacing built into them. The fabric layers is what gives nylon and other synthetics their spacing and their warmth from the spacing. There's a few spun synthetics that have multiple pockets in it that are good for insulation, but they generally tend to be heavy. They generally tend to be for outwears and sleeping bags and stuff like that, or woobies like this one here. And now we're getting kind of dark, so I don't think you're going to be seeing much, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this off here. And please, if you have any questions, get back with me and I will answer them for you. I'm David McGregor. Hold on here. There we go. Sorry about that. I don't have a remote way to turn the lights on. But now we've gotten dark enough that I kind of needed to. But as I was saying, I want to go ahead and wrap this up. If you're into the outdoors, whether that be hunting, fishing, kayaking, canoeing, even out on boats for long periods of time. You're a hiker, a camper, a backpacker that transitions through different terrains, such as a trail hiker, then you're definitely going to want to stay away from the cottons. And if you do a lot of transitioning and spend a lot of time, especially in moist environments, and pushing yourself to where you're sweating, and then you go into transitional temps like we are getting tonight, the natural fibers, as far as wool and fur type materials, is going to be your way to go. If you spend inordinate amounts of time, I would actually recommend furs, believe it or not. I do have buckskins and I do have my furs, and at some time in the future you'll probably see me in them. But wool is fantastic and works extremely well with those. And I usually only wear the furs when it's extremely cold. I've got a hell of an overcoat that is made with deer fur and rabbit fur that is unbelievably warm. In fact, down here in the lower 48, I've never run into a situation where I needed it. When I was hunting in Alaska years ago, is probably the last time I wore them, and that temperature was negative 41 degrees, and I was up on the foot of the mountains and got snowed in a blizzard. But for all the other situations, even in the military, I have found that the wools have always been superior to even the synthetics that the military issues. I usually don't. When I was serving, I didn't wear my base layers that were issued. I wore wool base layers. And then just before I retired, I had switched over to alpaca base layers. Anyway, I have droned on, and I've started to end this and cut back to giving information again, when I'm going to be bringing this stuff back out at another point in time, and we'll be going over other applications. Another thing about the natural fibers, the wools and stuff, over the synthetics is fires. If you're somebody who's around campfire, or somebody that's near, who grabs a hold of a pot or something, the synthetics will melt, where the wools won't. They generally don't burn through on your wools and your alpacas. And like I said, alpaca is the most expensive of what's here. But it's only slightly less expensive than your name brand merino wools like Smart Wool, Nix, and stuff like that. The Walmart bargain brand, Realtree here, is actually a fantastic intermediate. If you're not doing extreme colds and stuff, it is a fantastic choice for cost, and you can't argue with the price. Although for some of you that are on bargain budgets, all of the wools are going to be much more expensive than the cottons. So the temptation is always there to go with the cotton. Don't do it. Go ahead and spend the extra money. You'll get more protection out of 2 pair of wool socks than you will a whole drawer full of cotton. The same with your gloves. Cotton gloves aren't worth a damn. The wool gloves will save your hands. Can save your life. With base layers, you start with the wool base layers and go with the synthetic outers. And then, you know, as you get further in and invest more money or come across it, you can go with the cheaper military surplus, rag wools. And then eventually you can start looking into outer layer alpacas when money, time, get you there, but do you ever have to? No. Like I said, I've had that pair of military surplus pants for 27 years, and they have always done really well for me. I have been wearing these for 6 years now, and they are absolutely fantastic. I'm still on my first pair. I haven't worn them out to the point where I'll need to replace them, and I do spend a lot of time, even in the winters, outdoors. I have kneeled in the snow with these on and everything and still stayed warm with the whoop wears. I have crossed barbed wire fences and stuff, and while they are starting to get a little fuzzy, they're nowhere near worn down or worn out. So with that in mind, this is a rough outlook on outdoor textiles for clothing for the individual. We're not into sleeping gear or anything by any means, but I will tell you that if it gets cold and you're somebody whose feet get cold, the alpaca socks are having a spare pair of the ultra thick alpaca socks. When you slide into your sleeping bag is a fantastic way to go. They will keep you toasty warm through almost any situation. Again, if there are any questions or any comments, please let me know. Contact me. You can DM me, or you can get a hold of me here in the comments. I will look at them and let me know what you think. I know I don't have a lot of followers, but with everything that's happened, while I was in Tennessee, I did not get a chance to film in the Smokies. There was too many people there by the time I got into the Smokies. It was the Veterans Day weekend, and it was just packed to the gills, and I don't deal well with large crowds, and they don't make for good videos. So with all that being said, please get a hold of me. Tell me what you think. I didn't do a good job. I'll probably refilm this tomorrow.